Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Nintendo Fanboyz. This is episode 19, and I'm back. After Steven bored the hell out of you all, I'm back. So that means probably we're going to lose 400 subscribers, and this will have a view count of 12.
Yeah, because everybody told me that I should fire you and do this by myself all the time.
I know, and by everyone, there were like two people.
But yeah, I'm actually proud of I was going to say last week, but it's probably last year's podcast. At this rate, we've been pretty bad doing podcasts. This will actually be the third fanboy in a row. We've completely abandoned Canadian gamers because we're very lazy. So you. Yeah, exactly.
It's I take full responsibility over everything that happens in this planet. So, what have you been up to? It's been a hell of a long time since we've spoken.
Yeah, well, first off, I've been playing a game which we'll be talk about basically the entire podcast, which will be the topic of the show, which is Dragon Quest VII. So there's really no need to talk about that for right now. But besides that, I haven't really been playing much of anything else, actually. I had something to talk about, Nintendo related, but I completely forgot about it because you distracted me with your foolishness.
My foolishness.
But I was playing Axiom Verge, and then I stopped because, like I keep telling everybody, like if I can't play the game on the toilet, I don't have much time to do so.
But you can play it on the toilet.
You're right, but I'd have to buy it on the Vita.
Well, you just move your toilet to somewhere where
Actually, I think you could actually bring your Wii U in the bathroom, plug it in. You don't even need to hook it up to TV, and it will work.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. So stop.
That's a very easy solution.
It is.
Space. I should set it up right there. And that's pretty much it, I believe. What about you?
Oh, same thing, really. I haven't done much, man. I was playing through, the last one that I played through was, oh my god, what the heck was that called? I Am Setsuna. That was the last thing that I did. And then I had like a week and a half off, something like that. Not off of work, but off of game playing. I just stopped playing everything. Axiom Verge came out, and I've been recording that for this that you're watching right now. But I only did maybe 3 hours worth of gameplay, and then I just got really busy with work and other stuff going on around here. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stop. It's going to be a little bit boring, probably the next podcast that we do where I have footage because I have to remember where the hell I am in Axiom Verge and what I'm doing.
Yeah, same here.
But now, basically, every waking moment I have, I'm playing what's called Dragon Quest, and I'm playing it right now as I talk to you.
And just like I did the argument last time when I did this alone that you were full of it by saying you had no time. So just to be clear, how many hours are you in Dragon Quest VII right now?
I just booted this back up, and I'm at 32.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This guy doesn't have time to do videos, but 32 hours of Dragon Quest in 4 days, 5 days? Or actually, in a week.
Yeah, almost a week. Almost. Because I think I downloaded it on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, but this is how I've been doing it. Like, I cook dinner while playing. I talk, for a podcast while playing. No, seriously, it's been really, really funny. Like, I've been, it's the you scenario. You, it's the toilet. Me, it's, like, I don't need a TV. It's awesome. I don't need to do anything. I can easily play this, like, right before bed for a bit, which is it's what I've been doing, and it's actually the worst thing ever, because I ended up going to bed one time at, like, almost 4 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, you can't make videos at 3 a.m. That doesn't really work well. Otherwise, Serena will kill me. Well, she almost killed me with this. She was like, what the hell is wrong with you? Go to bed. I'm like, I've almost leveled this.
I think you were gonna wait till Wednesday to start playing this.
Yes.
You're weird. Special, maybe.
That's, well, no, weird is right. Well, right now I am trying to get Maribel to...
Anyway, we'll talk about this later.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Fine. You want to move on to news? Well, start off with your Pokemon news, because there was some stuff. There was actually I heard about a couple of these developments, but go ahead. You know more than I do, and it'll be interesting to hear.
I wanted mainly to talk about Pokemon Uranium, which I really want to do the damn review. I've done the written review, which you should probably put it on the site by now. The problem is I want to do it properly, so I want a microphone. Like right now, my voice is better than it ever was, but I still, with a microphone, I believe like we would be near perfection with our podcast. But man, it's $145 is the cheapest microphone. So I don't know why I'm waiting, but I'm waiting somehow. Maybe I'll ask for an early Christmas present from my parents or something like that. It's just hard to justify this purchase when I...
Well, do you want me to buy you that or those games? Because it's going to come to the same damn thing.
We'll see, man. I don't want to trouble you with anything right now.
Listen to this.
This is a lot more expensive.
What? I'm going to spend $100 on 2 games, or I'm going to spend like what?
3DS games are $40.
Yeah. But with tax and shipping and all this, it'll probably be like $400. So,
yeah. Whatever the case, the reason for that is I don't know why. Jared screwed up last time by buying me games I already own, and so I wanted him to rectify the situation by buying me games I did not own. And he was supposed to have done that already. I guess he did not. But I need to do that. So you should post the review online, though. The written one. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can do that.
And I'll try to get up, because now it's not as relevant as it was like when I did the review, damn it. Because I completed the game like 4 weeks ago. Whenever the last time we did the Fanboyz episode. And now the big news about Pokemon Uranium is that the creators have completely stopped doing updates on the game. They've announced via their Twitter account that they were no longer going to be working on Uranium, which kind of sucks, because there are still tons of bugs and tons of things to fix during Pokemon Uranium. But then again, this is very, very time consuming, and it's something they're doing for free. Obviously, they're not making any money on this, so I understand how they came to this decision, but it's still disappointing. And it's just this was such a huge phenomenon. 1.5 million downloads in 24 hours. This sounded like it was going to be really something special and was going to last for a while, and it's already over. Like I'm not sure how the online work, because we still haven't tried it yet, but I imagine that it's not server based. It might be like old PC games used to work. I'm guessing. I have no clue, because it can't be paying for server space.
You'll know, because if it's peer-to-peer, it will never shut down. Unless they update the game, it'll be online forever.
Yeah, that's what I assume it is.
But I have a question. Do you think, because people have been asking about this, do you think this had anything to do with Nintendo?
No, not at all.
You don't think so? You think this was genuinely them?
They completely mentioned that it was too time consuming for them, and the game is not officially available, so they've already updated it twice, I believe, since the game is not officially available. So I don't think it's because of Nintendo. It could be. I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't
get one.
I should. That's another thing you should get me. But I really don't see why Nintendo they would have stopped.
Well, it's if they told them to cease and desist, right? And they continued to work and update the game.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They haven't told them to cease and desist.
Oh, I thought they did.
No, they did not.
Oh, okay. All right.
They did this as a prevention because they assumed that they were going to be Nintendo were gonna slam them with a cease and desist eventually.
Okay.
Because of the whole Metroid 2 remake.
Yeah. Okay. I was under the impression they already did.
No, they did not. That was.
Okay.
So that's about it for Pokemon Uranium. I don't think you've played it since, right?
No, not ever since I lost that thing. I was like, well, screw that.
Yeah.
Because, like, what the hell's the point of that? Like, now, now, honestly, like, forget it. My whole life is revolving around this game.
No, it's like me. Like, I really enjoyed Uranium, but I'm like how you are with Dragon Quest. I'm the same with Pokemon. And Uranium was fantastic for me. But I think the written review is pretty good.
Yeah,
It'll give you a pretty good impression on the game, and I'll try to get this done eventually. Hopefully I get a mic to record it properly, but we'll see, because I don't want this to linger too much, because I know myself, eventually I'll never do it. So I need to get on this, and that's about it for Uranium.
What about what was the other,
Sun Moon, there was updates, but I'm trying to think since the last Fanboyz, but it's not really that big of a deal. It's cool stuff. They're basically every week there's a new trailer on YouTube, which is fantastic. Like, I get hyped for that all the time. Sometimes it's like a 5-minute trailer, sometimes it's a 45-second trailer. So can't wait. And also really want that. Damn, they announced a new 3DS XL Pokemon model, and I want it. Damn it!
You are such a sucker.
Yeah, I know. I really want one. I'm disappointed because I got the Triforce new 3DS XL, and it's fine. It looks good, but it's not a Pokemon one.
You crack me up. You're like those Sony fanboys that like buy like 7 PS3s or like now PS4s. They're like, ooh, it has a little, like it's slightly different color. It's
difference,
like
though, between me and those guys is that I don't actually go through with it.
This is true.
I haven't bought, like, I really wanted the Pokemon, the new 3DS, just the normal Pokemon one. It's not an XL that they did for the Virtual Console releases. Really wanted it, never got it. Wanted the Fire Emblem one, never got it. So I have some kind of discipline.
This is good. This is good. You are a father. That's important.
That's true. That's true.
Well, I did the same thing, actually. Like, I wanted a 3DS XL, the North American model there, and I waited, and then the Fire Emblem one came out, and I was like, sure, why not? I didn't have one, so what the hell? Like, it was worth it, and I'm happy I got this one. Well, it's like you with Zelda. You didn't need to get that particular model or whatever, but you didn't have one, so you went out and got one, and that's cool. I would have been really tempted, just mainly for, like, supporting the game and stuff. Like, had there been, like, a slime one, then I would have been very, very tempted. And I must admit, whenever a Zelda one comes out, I am very, very tempted to do that. And I've been very good. The only time I think was with a Game Boy one, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't they release, like, an SP that was, like, gold or Triforce or something?
Probably.
Anyways, I think that was the only time I remember actually doing something like that. And even that, I may be wrong. It's been so friggin' long.
Yeah, the Zelda new 3DS XL that I got is the first time ever that I ever got a special handheld system. Like, all of my previous handhelds were usually the launch models or just a regular color. But this is the first time I got one. And the reason is, when Majora's Mask was announced, they announced a kick-ass new 3DS Majora's Mask. And that was, the new 3DS XL was pretty much coming out at the same time, in North America at least, as Majora's Mask. Because by the time I already had the Japanese one, but I really needed a North American one eventually. Well, I didn't really need it, but I wanted one. But the problem is, that one was sold out the second it was put online. And the price never came down since. And as soon as I saw the Triforce one, which was to coincide with the what was the game? The multiplayer Zelda Triforce Heroes. And it was a GameStop exclusive. As soon as I saw that, I impulse bought it, because I imagined that it was going to be impossible to find, but it didn't happen. That one stayed actually went down in price. Like a few months ago, it was really, really cheap, and now I think it's sold out because now it's if you can only find it like on eBay and Amazon by resellers, and it's marked up like crazy for no reason. It's probably not going to sell, but this one didn't catch up as much as the Majora's Mask one. But I'm sure that if I would have waited just a bit, I could have either gotten the Fire Emblem one, which I think is one of the prettiest one, the one you have. Like, I really love it. It's like a gray-white with a really like subtle.
Yeah, it's very subtle, man.
I like that.
Like, you can barely see that there's a design on it.
I like that. I don't know why. I really resonate with that one. I really like that one. Where I would have liked. Did you see the black Pokemon one? The new one?
No, I honestly, man, I've seen Jack's.
It has the 2 new Sun and Moon legendaries on it, but it's all in black and black and white. So it's amazing. I really want that, but it's life, man. You can't have everything you want in life.
No, of course. Excuse me. No, but I mean, whatever. That's all good. I was surprised I held out for as long as I did. But whatever. But if there was like a DQ one with like slimes all over it or something, I know me. That would be very hard for me to resist something like that.
Yeah.
But
whatever. $150 Dragon Quest Heroes Collector's Edition.
Exactly.
That you played many, many times.
Yes, I did. I opened it. How about that? But, okay, so where are we? Let's see. Pokemon Uranium, Pokemon news in general. All right, Super Mario Run. This was really interesting. But I want you to, because you had so much success, keep talking, because I'm really interested to hear your take of this, and then I'll give you my take when this was announced and what I thought and stuff.
Yeah, I hate doing this way, because usually when I say my take, you then say your take, which is now kind of my take, but mixed with a bit more Jaredness.
Well, do you want me to tell you my thing first?
Go ahead.
Okay, fine. Okay, so basically, I keep saying this, and it's funny because I'm the only one who says this. You don't. Well, it's not agreeing. I don't want to say that. It's nothing to do with that. It's just you look at it a different way. Ahmed looked at it a different way. I have a whole bunch of friends here that looked at it a different way. But it's just we all knew that Nintendo had that DNA. I think that's how it's pronounced. Deal where they're going to release 5 games?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so there was Mitomo, which I stopped playing now quite a while ago. There's Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem. And part of this deal now includes Super Mario Run. But the thing was, it was just the way it was announced just took me back. I don't want to say surprise. It's not so much surprising. It's just that it almost felt like the end of an era, if you will. And that's because Miyamoto himself came out on stage at Apple's conference where they were announcing the iPhone 7, I think. And anyways, just seeing him at a non-Nintendo event was very telling of the times, if that makes any sense at all. And he was showing off Super Mario Run, and it's a standard run game. If you don't know what those are, basically you just have to tap the screen at a certain, whenever you want your character to jump. It's very, very, there's like a 50 billion of these type of run games. Sonic, believe it or not, one of the highest selling games in Sonic history is that Sonic Run type game. So this is actually a really big deal. They're already saying this could have 500 million downloads. They are going to charge for it, though, they said. It's not going to be a free-to-play, which is good because it'll be a full-fledged experience. And it just looks like your standard run game. I'm not oh my god, greatest game ever. It follows the new Super Mario Brothers look and feel, I assume. Well, feel, not really, but look. And yeah, it's just, for me, it was, we expected this. We all knew this was going to happen. It's just, I don't know. It really struck me wow, this is telling of where Nintendo is right now, where the market is, how things have changed. I felt very similar to when I saw Sonic appear on the Neo Geo Pocket Color in magazines, I was like, wow, like this is crazy. I never thought I would see Sonic, you know, on a platform that wasn't made by Sega, and it's almost that same sort of feeling. But again, it's different because we knew. It's just was surprising to see Miyamoto out there at an Apple conference. That's all. That's what really was kind of jarring to me.
I really like this news. It kind of goes back to the Pokemon Go phenomenon that is quickly fading down now, but it's still. We'll talk about some sales later, but it's basically it put Pokemon back on the map, and I believe this will do even more because this is actually made by Nintendo.
It's not part of the DNA relationship?
Yeah, it is. Pardon me. It's Nintendo owns this. Pokemon Go was not part of the DNA.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. Sorry.
So this will get millions and millions of downloads. This will be a paid app, so this is awesome. And we can't even talk about mobile gaming. I've been following mobile gaming since Colin started talking about it during the PS I Love You podcast, and apparently it's not as successful as everybody thinks. There's like millions. There's like hundreds of thousands of apps on there, and really maybe 10 are successful. So it's not. It's overflow. It's flooded basically. And with a game like this, with Mario, which is a very well-known character, and if they're charging for it, they're gonna make. I assume they're gonna make tons of money. Their shares have already gone up 25% since they announced this, and it's gonna have the same effect as Pokemon Go, meaning that people are gonna download Mario on their phone. They're then going to go to Walmart or to the store and they're going to purchase 3DS or they're going to purchase NX to get the latest Mario game. They're going to do the exact same thing they did with Pokemon Go. And this is a perfect synergy that Nintendo has. And this seems like it doesn't affect at all their regular games. This is a different team working on it. The fact that if Miyamoto is involved, that's even better because, like we've talked before, I want Miyamoto as far away from Nintendo's franchise as possible. Make him work on his little projects, that's fine. But this is really great news if you factor in that they're going to have the NES Classic Edition or Anniversary Edition, whatever it's called, in November, with Super Mario Run a week or two after. Like, Nintendo's going to be a hot item this holiday season. People are going to talk about Mario again, and that can only fare well for the NX launch.
Yeah. I mean, got nothing to argue with that, man. Nothing to argue whatsoever. And that's a perfect segue. Let's segue into the sales, okay? We'll move things around here because I think it's going to be an interesting discussion to talk about that. So go ahead. What were the sales that you wanted to mention for that?
All right. So while I talk, you might want to open your browser and check it out because I'm very professional and I took 0 notes. But the thing is that we forgot to talk about the July sales, and something very important happened in July that never happened before. And that is that Monster Hunter Generations was the #1 selling game in July when you factor in single SKU. So basically, when you don't factor in single SKU, Grand Theft Auto 5 was the top selling game of July, but Grand Theft Auto 5 is available on 360, PS3, Xbox One, PS4, and PC. So that's 5 different SKUs. So if you don't factor those, Monster Hunter Generations was actually the best selling game of July. And that's impressive because Monster Hunter has never been a huge seller. I don't even know if it charted once before, and it was the #1 selling game in July. So that was incredible. And the 3DS was actually the top selling console of July.
Yep.
And when you go to August, I think the Xbox One was the top selling console of July, but I believe that the 3DS outperformed its previous year-to-year sales, but that's why I want you to check because I'm not sure. But I also wanted to talk about Pokemon Go's impact because Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire and Pokemon X and Y, they all charted in, I believe it's in August, but it could have been in July. Again, when you factor single SKUs, but
Yeah, single SKUs,
X
that's right.
and Y came out in 2013, so they're 3 years old now, and Oras came out in 2014. So you have some 3 and 2 year old games that charted, that sold incredibly well because of an app. So that means that people went out and bought the game and probably also bought 3DS. You can imagine that a lot of people who played Pokemon Go did not necessarily have a 3DS and went out of their way to purchase one.
Yep.
So this seems like a perfect synergy between Nintendo's mobile strategy. To be fair, though, Pokemon Go doesn't really have anything to do with Nintendo, but it's still a good example and something we can pick up some data and expect some similar results with, especially with Mario, which is one of their biggest IPs. I'm not sure about Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem, how those, especially Fire Emblem, how that will fare on a mobile market. But that's just very, very solid sales that could tell us a positive story as far as Nintendo's future is concerned.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting, and this was the discussion. I don't think Nintendo realized this. I think that's the truth. I think they had loosey-goosey mobile plans, but once they saw what happened, when they realized the sales, that the 3DS starts picking up sales, the fact that very old Pokemon games start picking up, I think that was like a wake-up call to them to say, like, oh, Jesus, maybe we should, not, I don't want to say take it more serious, but that, we can be very strategic with this. And I can assure you that Pokemon Go 2, or in other words, like, any sort of follow-up that happens, they're going to want to make a lot more money off of. Whether or not they can do it, like we've discussed multiple times with the whole Pokemon company and stuff like that, forget about that. But like this Mario thing, this is clearly a strategic play. You're announcing this at like one of the largest events for mobile, which is, Apple's big event where they talk about their new phone. You're guaranteed that this thing is going to sell like gangbusters, like guaranteed. And if it does sell like gangbusters, by having it look like new Super Mario Brothers, for example, well, it might not be a bad idea for NX to have a new Super Mario Brothers style game ready at day one, in order to do exactly what you're saying, to make that synergy, to make it that, people will go out, buy. And it's clearly working. Like, this isn't something where, people can argue. You cannot argue. If games like, that are a couple of years old rechart after all this time, clearly it's got to do with the success of Pokemon Go. And we all know that not every game Nintendo puts out there is going to turn into another Pokemon Go, but I can tell you right now, Super Mario Run is going to be huge. It's going to be absolutely huge. And most likely they're just going to charge like $4.99 for it or something like that. And if that damn game, sells 200 million copies or something, cha-ching!
Yeah, and it's apparently going to be a one-time purchase, so it's not going to be like additional cost or whatever, so that's pretty cool. One thing that I found encouraging was that Pokemon company's president said that there was no plans to put the regular Pokemon games on mobile because he said that that's not what the mobile market is about, which I completely agree with him, because Nintendo, if they wanted, could easily port like most of their NES game and even Super NES games on there, and it would have a lousy control setup, but they would still make tons of money by doing that. But that would not necessarily benefit the consumer. So they're not doing that. While other companies like Sqaure-Enix are doing that, and they don't care that their ports of their Final Fantasy games or Dragon Quest games play like crap on there. They don't care. They just want the money. So it's a good sign for Nintendo fans right now. I'm not sure if down the line, let's say the NX is a failure, if Nintendo will not try to do something like that to counterattack some of the bleeding. But right now, it seems very, very well managed, and they're making tons of money.
And let's keep something in mind here. Nintendo, throughout all of its history, has always had a safety blanket. Always. And it's, if you don't know what that is, basically in business, very high level, what it typically means is like, okay, well, I manufacture like components for the 3DS, but I also make 3DS carrying cases. You know what I mean? Or like I also I manufacture buildings where something some production happens, like some other market. My first example was crap, but some other market completely different than what you're in, so that in the event that one market starts to stumble a little bit, you don't go belly up. Now, sorry, excuse me. Now, granted, Nintendo's a gaming company, and that's what they do, but by having a portable and having a console, when one of them was successful and the other one wasn't, sort of offset the costs or the expenses, rather. And now, maybe this is going to be their new safety blanket or safety net. Like, maybe this is it. Like, Super Mario Run, if it makes them $250 million and the NX isn't as successful as they were hoping, well, maybe it's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like the Game Boy Advance compared to the GameCube. The GameCube, yeah, it made them some money, but it wasn't, it was a huge disaster, big flop compared to what they had done with the N64, which itself was a big flop compared to the SNES and so on and so forth. But they always had something else to back them up. And we've been talking for a while that if this is a hybrid console and there is not a follow-up or like a successor to the 3DS, if it's just, here's the new Nintendo machine, you can bring it anywhere in the world you want, but when you're home, it can, be played on your big screen TV. I've always been like, yeah, like I get that. Like I see the positives to that. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but you kind of lose your safety net. And in this scenario, now I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what? Maybe they're not going to lose their safety net at all. They're simply going to replace the dedicated portable with mobile. And I don't mean all of a sudden you're going to get your Pokemon, your real Pokemon game on mobile. I don't mean that. I mean that they'll just release the select titles on mobile, make all kinds of money off of that, and then here we go. We have our hybrid NX, assuming that is what it is. And we're going to make all our game developers, our big game developers, work on that. And then there you go. You get the best of both worlds. If the thing doesn't sell too well, it's okay, because we're still making a buttload of money off of mobile. So it might be a very smart strategy these guys are doing.
Yep, indeed.
Okay, so let's see. Moving on, we had Super Mario Maker 3DS 2D levels only. Yeah, okay, so what was this all about? Where did you hear this? See, this is kind of cool. I like this podcast today because you're sort of giving me news, and I get to tell you opinions fresh off the presses because I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, this just happened yesterday when the box art was revealed for Mario Maker on 3DS, and it said on the box art 2D only.
Oh, that's what you meant.
So, yeah, so you don't actually get use of the 3D feature in Mario Maker. And I just wanted to quickly mention that because I don't know if you remember, New Super Mario Bros. 2 did have a 3D feature, but it was practically useless. Like, it did not do anything at all. So I just wanted to quickly mention that. Like, I'm fine with no 3D on a 2D game. It doesn't really add much.
I think we're done. At this point, I think we're pretty done with the 3D element of 3DS, and I know I fully understand there are still, of course, bajillions of games that are coming out with that feature, but I mean, I don't think that is now a selling feature whatsoever. And to be really honest with you, man, I haven't used the 3D in so long, I don't even remember what the last time I used it. And it was not because I didn't enjoy it or anything like that. I just don't use it anymore.
Yeah, the last game I played with the 3D on was A Link Between Worlds, and I played that game completely with the 3D on. And
yeah,
I thought it was fantastic, but since then, for some reason, I've completely turned it off all the time. I don't know if it was because it burned down the battery too quickly, or my eyes, because my eyes can't get used to it anymore. And the new 3DS is supposed to be better for that, but I used to have no problem playing 3D all the time, and now I can't for some reason. So,
oh, that's interesting, man, because that was the last game that I did it too, and I stopped for no reason. None. I maybe the battery, maybe, but nothing to do with my eyes or seeing. No, none of that. For me, I actually have no. Is Dragon Quest even in 3D?
Yeah, it is. I checked.
Oh, there you go.
I think it is actually. Maybe it's not, but I I checked and I assumed there was some kind of 3D effect on them, but who knows?
Yeah, it should. That game should because it's so old, right? Like
Yeah,
now,
I believe that Dragon Quest VIII might not have it, but Dragon Quest VII, yeah, you're right. It's a 3-year-old game.
So anyway, okay, cool. Okay, I didn't realize that's what you meant. Okay, cool. So now we've got Paper Mario Color Splash. Now this was cool what you told me earlier, but I'll let you say the story because I think this is kind of cool.
Yeah. So basically, there's a cool feature on the 3DS and the Wii U, and like it's on probably on PS4 and Xbox One. Like by probably, I mean it's on there too, but I don't know how early it is. But with most games, you can preload them now, 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes even months in advance. That's how I got Dragon Quest VII. I had it preloaded, and it was the first time, honestly, that I did this, have a game preloaded so early. But some people did the same thing with Color Splash, but they were actually lucky because today many people got the actual game, and 2 weeks before its release date, which is October 7th. And I don't know what happened, if somebody on Nintendo's going to get fired, but the game was available if you preloaded it, and now they're going to be able to play. So it's going to be funny because probably some people are going to try to do a Let's Play or something, and Nintendo's going to shut it down, obviously, because they don't want any Let's Plays of this game before it's out. But that's cool, man. If I had known, I would have probably done this, but it's not like I have time to play that right now. But it's a pretty cool thing that happened today.
Yeah, I think so too. I think someone hit the release button a little bit too early, and there's nothing you can do to take that away. You know, like you're kind of screwed unless you update the game and then it doesn't work, but they'll never do that. You know, like they'll never do that. And then people will simply just shut off their online features and there you go, you have the game. That is very surprising. I think that's the first time I've heard of that for like a big release by a first party title. That's really kind of surprising. I'm kind of shocked actually, especially Nintendo of all companies.
Yeah, and it only happened with Nintendo of America because Nintendo of Europe and Japan could not get game early. Just here.
Oh, someone's gonna get fired.
But obviously they fixed the issue since then, and it's no longer available. Well, it's available to preload, but not to download.
Yeah. Oh, that's bad juju.
But I would quickly mention that preloading games is awesome. My God,
yeah, of course,
it's awesome. Like that's why I found it funny when you were saying that you weren't gonna get DQ.
I had pre-ordered this a bajillion years ago. So that's the only reason I was like, well, I'm not going to cancel my pre-order. Like what? Like, I have it pre-ordered.
No, it's funny that you'd still do that when the option to preload those games are there. Like the 3DS is actually one of the first consoles to have that. So
yes, it is. That's true. Well, I ended up buying the game twice. That's just the way I roll. So nobody can tell me that I'm not a fan of this series because if you do, well, you're a liar. So I guess, unless you want to do a blast from the past, I guess we're going to move on.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay,
Topic of the show.
Topic of the show, basically, everybody knows, I can say we, because you are too. We're fans of Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest is what I consider the last of the truly traditional role-playing games on the market. There are, of course, other ones. There's still turn-based RPGs and things like that. But Dragon Quest, for better or worse, which we'll get into, I mean, I might be a big fan, but I'm not blind to problems with it and things like that. But for better or worse, it truly is a traditional Japanese RPG. And I don't even like using that term, like Japanese RPG. It's just a traditional turn-based RPG. And, we're both fans of this particular series. Steven really liked Dragon Quest VIII when it was released way back when on the PS2. I still can't get over how long ago it was. You didn't really get into 9, though, eh?
No, 9... I played for about 10 hours, and I was really into it. The beginning I thought was fantastic, but as soon as they introduced the NPC, like you could basically select any class you wanted, and the NPCs your party was just full of NPCs that had no storyline implications whatsoever, and that turned me off. And I should have given it a bigger chance because apparently everybody loves that game, so it must have something that I did not see. But I just got turned off, and the difficulty was quite high for that one too, unless you really wanted to grind for some reason. Like Dragon Quest in general, like it's not easy per se, but it's
hard.
It's not hard for as far as RPGs go. Like if you compare it to Final Fantasy, it's piece of cake. I think from my personal experience. But there's still some grinding to do, and you still need to know what you're doing from time to time. Obviously, it was a bit harder back in the NES days, but it's still like some people call it an introduction to JRPGs. I don't know if you agree with that, but you get my point. And
okay. The way I tell people with Dragon Quest is it starts off as a very simple RPG series. All of them do. And as you progress in the game, they add wrinkles, okay, or layers that, change up the gameplay, mix it up a little bit, but it never really gets like OMG, like crazy complicated, like some of these modern games where, you have all these skill trees and all this sort of stuff. That's not what Dragon Quest has ever been about. Dragon Quest has always been about just going out, exploring, meeting new, like villages and just having fun. Like really, it doesn't get bogged down in these systems. Mm-hmm. And some people really don't like that. And that's okay.
That's fine, yeah. It's just, for me, Dragon Quest VIII, if I recall, when we did our top 10 games of all times on Canadian Gamers, I believe I put it at like number 7 and number 8. So, by the way, I put it on the list. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And I just was a bit let down by the follow-up, I guess. Like, I think you played over 100 hours of that game, and I know many people did. So, it's just me.
Well, no, I don't think so. It goes like this. Now that you've experienced 7, okay, I think if you were to go back and play 9, you would have a different appreciation for it. Because it does have some similarities in the sense that there are a lot of contained storylines in Dragon Quest IX. So instead of putting the focus on your party, and that's what you loved about Dragon Quest VIII. You loved that. That was your thing. You loved that they had this interaction, that the party would speak to one another, that you had individual storylines for these like 4 characters, and they really got to like know and care about each other, and you therefore cared about these particular characters. And because of that lead in to that final confrontation, you were like, I really want to down this son of a bee. And yes, that's true, absolutely true with Dragon Quest VII as well. You do have the interaction with your party members. Every time you go to a new village, something new happens. You can press, what button is it? Let's just see. You can press the B button, and you can talk to your party, and they'll have like little witty dialogue and banter back and forth and things like that. But the difference is that with 7, which we'll obviously get into way more detail in just a sec, 7 has a lot of self-contained little storylines, and that's what Dragon Quest 9 went back to. Like 8, yes, the same thing. Yes, 8 definitely did have self-contained storylines, stuff like that, but they took it to like the next level with 9, where you had like quest lines. Each individual quest, like, would help an individual NPC, and it was not as fleshed out. Absolutely, no one can deny that. The 9 was as fleshed out as the rest of the series. But it certainly is a very good game in its own right, and I look at it like it really was the precursor to Dragon Quest X. It really was, because Dragon Quest X is set up in a very similar way as Dragon Quest IX, with the exception being that your party this time is either NPCs, like just general other characters from other gamers, or your friends. And that's what I really like about Dragon Quest X. I've been playing it now for goodness. We're going to be going on 2 years straight of videos of Dragon Quest X, which is unbelievable. I never imagined that we were going to do that. But I will admit, I am very much looking forward to Dragon Quest XI now. because having gone back in English and played, I'm playing Dragon Quest VII, I really am, I think, like, the number one game I'm the most excited for right now is Dragon Quest XI. I really cannot wait to experience another traditional RPG in this universe, but going back now to what we've seen before. And maybe, because currently we have not seen a party, if I'm not mistaken. We've only seen one main playable character, like the hero guy, and that was it. So I'm still not 100% sure what direction they're going. Me, personally, I really want to go back to, like, the Dragon Quest 1 to 8. Like, I want a party that stays together, that you learn, you know, their inside stories, their backstories, and all of that. I really, really, really hope Dragon Quest XI goes in that direction, but I'm not 100% sure considering the success of Dragon Quest 9 and 10.
I want to set up a timeline here, because you actually played Dragon Quest 7 and 8 on the Japanese 3DS this year, right?
That's the thing. I'm not sure, man. Was it this year or last year?
It's hard to tell.
Because my Japanese 3DS, I had to put it away to make room on my desk, so I don't have it to look at the log.
But Dragon Quest 8 in Japan on 3DS came out last year, I believe, last summer.
Yeah, it was last.
So maybe it was last. But anyway, my point is, you played these games, or at least Dragon Quest VII recently, and you beat it on your Japanese 3DS, so you still have it fresh on your mind, right?
Well, yes, but not. How can I say this? Yes, I know where to go. I know what to do. I know, like that. Yes, yeah.
And you probably invested over 100 hours into 7. On
7.
Because you beat it, right?
Yeah, I beat it. I just didn't go crazy because I couldn't, like, I was having a hard time finding information on the game. So I didn't do any of, like, Monster Haven, or I think it's called Haven here. I didn't do any of the monster class stuff, and I just went to what you know, the classes that I went to back in Dragon Warrior 7, and I finished the game off. Like, that was it.
So can you tell me a bit if there's any difference between the North American version and the Japanese version? Besides
not really, not offhand so far. Not that it.
The difference between Dragon Quest VII and Dragon Warrior 7.
Okay.
Like, I know a lot on my top of my head, but I'm pretty sure there's, like, classes and stuff like that have been added.
Okay. This is the thing that I would very much like our fan base to touch base on. Okay, guys? This is going to be really, really important to you, to this discussion, because the one thing, Zelda's like one of the few series, certain Zeldas, not all, where, like, I know that, you know, like A Link to the Past, you know, if you were to release A Link to the Past today and you were to change, say, one thing, like the color of something, I would know right away, because, like, it's ingrained in there. Dragon Quest is not one of those things, and I don't know why. I don't understand why that is. I have a very hard time with Dragon Quest remembering, like, names of spells. Like, I can intuitively or instinctually select, you know, like a heal-all type of spell, or like some sort of buff or debuff. But I have a hard time for whatever reason, and I think it's because ever since I was really young, I've been playing this series in Japanese, and then much later playing it in English, and going like that. So what this amounts to is that I have a very hard time recalling what was in which game. Like, if you were to come through and talk to me and say, like, okay, Dragon Quest V, what happened in Dragon Quest V? I couldn't even tell you. Like, I would have to really, like, I'd be like, hey, I'll get back to you in half an hour, because I can't do that. Now, so comparing Japanese to American, I really don't know if things have been censored a bit. Maybe dialogue, which I would not be able to tell you. But I don't think anything exclusive made its way into the North American one. But guys, this is for you, okay? So let me know about this. If I'm mistaken, go ahead, like, tell me. But with Dragon Warrior, oh hell yeah. Like, oh hell yeah. This is so different. It's unbelievable. I remember back in the day, let me grab it. It's right here, Dragon Warrior 7 here. I remember back in the day, this freaking game, man. This freaking game. I'm looking at the box art now and I'm just like, oh, I invested so much time into this son of a game you cannot possibly imagine. And the reason why is because Dragon Quest VII, okay, is one of the most, how can I say this, user-unfriendly video games I have ever played. It was friggin' brutal, man. Brutal.
Just to correct you, you meant Dragon Warrior 7.
Yeah, sorry.
Or Dragon Quest VII, obviously, if you're talking about the Japanese.
No. I'm talking Dragon Warrior 7 on the PlayStation 1. The number one selling PlayStation 1 game of all time, at least in Japan. Dragon Warrior 7. But I'm talking about the North American one. Yeah, so the PS1 Classic was brutal, okay? It was a Super Nintendo game that was basically slapped on with like the Grandia engine for graphics in terms of how it worked, where you can move the camera left and right around like this 3D space, but the entire game was sprite based in terms of like how it actually looked. And I never cared about that. I know so many people back in the day were like, graphics. So obviously those have been completely redone, but the graphics have been like copied essentially, like directly from the PlayStation 1 original. So like your house, for example, it's exactly the way it was. Bags are where they were originally, although you can't actually search bags in this one, which I think is kind of unique, because in the PS1 original you could search. So you could not only search say pots and break the pots and break barrels, but you could also search bags, which I thought was kind of weird why you couldn't do that here, but whatever. And again, guys, very important, I could be totally wrong, okay? I could be totally wrong. But I'm pretty sure you could. The other thing, which is the big one that you know of, is the fact that the entire beginning of the game has been completely streamlined, so that now you are essentially fighting within, I think it's like the first hour, no?
No, I think, like most reviews say 2 hours. For me, I think it took me an hour and 20 minutes, but I went pretty fast. I assume most people will get their first battle in around between an hour, 30 minutes, or 2 hours. Okay,
so then at the very least, double that for the original. And I mean that, like, at the very least, double that. I have 2 videos, which I don't want to, like, just check now, only because I don't want to, like, you'll hear it, you know, in the recording, and I don't really want to do that. But I have 2 Dragon Quest VII, I have 3 Dragon Warrior 7 videos here, okay? And if I go, one of them is 37 minutes, one of them is 34 minutes, so that's over an hour, and this one is 13 minutes, and I'm nowhere near the first battle. Like, I mean nowhere near. I'm still in the first dungeon. The first dungeon of the game is where you have to go and get the pieces of armor. So in this one, you just have to go and pick them up. There's like this little room, you go, you pick them up, and away you go, you're done. But in the original, it's like a gargantuan friggin' dungeon with no enemies, just puzzles. Tons and tons of puzzles. It's so freaking long that so many people got turned off by Dragon Warrior 7 back in the day just because of that. I can't tell you how many people I know were just like, okay, well, like, F this, I'm out, you know, because it's like 3 hours or something and you still are trying to figure out where to go, what to do. You haven't even found any fragments yet. You're still in the present, and they were just like, okay, I'm done. I'm out. Now, if you did invest time, if you did get to the point where you started traveling the world, well, guess what? Things don't get any better. In this new version, you can at any point go into the info tab and say, where's the next fragment? And it will actually tell you where you have to go. Now, this will become critical to Mr. Steven here when he gains the ability to fly. Because when you gain the ability to fly, the game opens up a little bit and you gain the freedom to go wherever the hell you want to go, okay? And that sounds all fine and dandy, but the problem was in the original is if you weren't paying attention, or let's say you couldn't play the game every single day, right? So like you had to shut it off for whatever reason. Well, you were pretty much screwed because good luck trying to find out where that next fragment happened to be. So here, they made it extremely user-friendly. Okay, just go to this location. Wabam, you're done. The other thing is you have that lovely orb at the bottom screen that pulsates to tell you when you're getting closer and closer to a fragment. Again, wonderful. This is customer service I look at. Some people are like, oh, it's not hardcore enough and this and that. Guys, like, relax. You know, like, seriously, it's much better game. As a video game, this remake is far superior to the original in just making it just a better experience. Yes, I understand, sure, if you really explore every area, which I do. In this new one, I don't need the orb to tell me if I'm getting closer or not, because I explore every single room because I want to get mini medals and things of that nature. But not everyone is Jared, right? There are a lot of people who simply want to move on with the story, and they don't want to talk to every NPC. They don't want to explore every little nook and cranny. And so for those people, it's so user-friendly right now. But you mentioned something very interesting, okay? You mentioned, are there new classes? And I don't think there are. Dun, dun, dun. I actually think they're simply renamed classes.
That's interesting because they added stuff to Dragon Quest VIII. Then again, Dragon Quest VIII was remade years after 7. But I would imagine they did that. But maybe not. Maybe not, because they also removed the random encounters.
Yep, yeah, thank you. See? I would have totally forgot that. Here, I'm just checking right now while we're talking, okay? I put Dragon Warrior 7 classes. Okay, so there was a Bard back in the day. But the Bard, let me go into the email I just sent you today. Because the Bard still exists. It's just been renamed something else. Where are we? Sent emails, Mr. Steven. Here we go. Okay, so today your basic classes include the Warrior, Martial Artist, Mage, Priest, Dancer, the Troubadour, Jester, Sailor, Thief, and Shepherd. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 standard classes, or basic. Back in the day, there was Bard, Cleric, Dancer, Fighter, Jester, Mage, Mariner, Shepherd, Thief, and Warrior. See? 10. So it's exactly the same. Then they didn't change anything, because for intermediate classes, today we have Gladiator, Armamentalist, Paladin, Sage, Luminary, Pirate, and Monster Masher. So that's 7. And back in the day, we had Dragoon, Paladin, Pirate, Ranger, Sage, Tamer, and Teen Idol, which is 7. So yeah, there's no difference at all.
Okay.
They simply changed the names of them.
All right.
So yeah, but other than that, I don't know. That's the truth. I haven't played Dragon Warrior 7 in so long, man, that I honestly don't know. At this point, I don't really think so. But that could be completely false. I know the whole thing with the fragments in with the Street Pass, that obviously is all new.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just mention like what you said at the beginning, like about how the game works and how unfriendly it was. Like I just cannot imagine, because in my mind it's still a bit like tedious for no reason at all.
For sure.
Like it seems like some of these design choices were made just to make the game longer, And if you know anything about Dragon Quest VII, is that the thing the game doesn't really need is more length. Like, it's already long enough. Like, there was no reason to do this. I just don't understand the design choices of Dragon Warriors 7, and I'm very, very glad, don't get me wrong, that they streamlined it and that they made it a lot more easier and a lot less tedious, but it still feels very much unnecessary for me, because the way the game, like you talked about at the beginning, how you don't get into a battle for a long, long, long time. And even after that, it's still very, very slow-paced adventure. But the thing that still gets me is, like, minor spoilers. Like, obviously, there's going to be minor spoilers for what we talk about here, guys, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. The main goal of the game is to go back in time and fix some problems of some villages, and then you basically unlock that island in the present. And the problem I have with that is that forces you basically to revisit every area at least twice. And I'm pretty sure it's like, I've already visited some areas more than twice, and I'm pretty sure it's even more than that, because I'm pretty sure most of these you'll get to back to often during your 100-hour adventure or more. So it's a bit, I don't understand the appeal of that design choice to make you, like, it's fun to go back to this village and see the history change and whatnot. But doing the dungeons over and over again, I could live without.
Yeah. Yeah. You're done with that? Because I have a lot to say about that.
Go ahead.
Okay. This was one of my annoyances with Dragon Quest VII. It makes a lot of people's list of, like, the best Dragon Quest thing, and for me, one of the reasons why, well, number one, I have a hard time making that list because, like I said, I never remember which one is which. But 7, the reason why 7 is not always, like, high on my list is because of what you just said. I always found that very tedious. Going back, what I thought would have been a wiser choice would have been, so you go to the past, you have your dungeons in the past, you do whatever, right? But then in the future, when you come back to present time, when you go back to the future, it should have been sort of like, how can I say this? It should have been like, just not mandatory. And, like, I like the idea that you can go back and see, oh, wow, you know, like, this is how the town has evolved, or the village has evolved, or sometimes even the continent has evolved. But I really don't like the idea that it's forced on you. Like, you have to go back to see these places and how they've changed, because it's the only way to get new fragments in order to move on. And very often, those fragments are back in the same dungeon that they were in previously, except now there's no monsters, so you can, like, run through them and you can go and get stuff. But that's not always the case. And yeah, exactly what you said. It's a very odd design choice when you consider just how gargantuan of a video game this is. You could have easily made this an 85-hour game, you know, or maybe like an 80-hour game or whatever. Hell, it may even still be a 100-hour game doing what I said. Now, granted, you know, things would have had to have changed a little bit with these fragments, or they could have just made it that the fragments are only available in the past. You know what I mean? And that's it. You know, you find a couple in the present to get you going, and then you find them in the past, and there you go. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. It's an archaic design, and I mean, you can really feel it, guys. You can really, really feel it. People tend to forget this, but Dragon Warrior 7, and I keep referring to that just to differentiate between the PS1 game and the 3DS one. But that game was released, I think it was 2001, but it was in development since like 1995, I think it was, or 1996. It was originally developed for the Super Nintendo. So it feels like it. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of those core design choices really feel like a very, very, very old RPG from that point in time. And yeah, I am super thankful that they made the design choices that they did for this remake. But yeah, I'm right there with you, man. That it's still it feels very archaic. Like that a lot of this could have been removed.
And how was the encounter rate? Do you remember how was the encounter rate in Dragon Warrior 7?
It was Dragon Quest, dude. It's Dragon Quest. Every 2 steps, every 3 steps.
Because I like the fact that there's no random encounters there, but in dungeon where there's very narrow space, it almost feels like the same thing. Because obviously you're running into monsters every 2 steps because they keep popping into your face, and you don't have much room to evade. And I'm 19 hours in right now, almost. And the first 10, I played not actually trying to evade them, because I was playing my own mentality with Dragon Quest to grind and make sure you're high enough, and then you kept talking about how you were almost 10 hours ahead of me and my level was the same as you, so I decided to stop grinding as much. I'm evading everything now, if I can. But in dungeons, it's almost the same as random encounters, because they're all over the place and it's very narrow corridors, so what can you do?
No, but that's it, man. That was my point. That's why I wasn't grinding. Because in essence, you are going to grind. You know what I mean? There's no point in purposely getting into battles. That doesn't make any sense, because it's going to happen to you no matter what. Once you jump into dungeons, you're screwed, man. You're going to be fighting. That's why I was telling you with the Abbey, that area, right? I wasn't exaggerating, was I? You're still not done, are you?
No, I assume I'm close. Well, I was going to say spoiler there, but I assume I'm close. I hope. But I'm enjoying this quest, though, actually. I'm enjoying this very much.
Yeah, well, no. And it's not a bad quest.
No,
it's just
probably one of the... most quests feel like side quests, if you get what I mean. But this one actually feels like it's part of the main storyline. Because there's something important happening, something major happening.
Yeah, and you're going to get more and more of that now as you move forward. You're going to get smaller islands and stuff that still will feel side quest-ish, but you're going to see, they're going to start ramping up, talking about some big evil type of thing, and it's going to get more and more and more as you get forward until it culminates where you're like, okay, now I get it. I see what's going on.
No, I really can't wait to play more. I've been I'm critical of the game, but every single free moment I have, I'm playing the game, so it's doing something right.
Oh, exactly, and that's exactly where I am. Exactly like that. I am not oblivious to the facts. I wouldn't go, oh yeah, 10 on 10, best game ever. But it has the Dragon Quest appeal, which is these are charming characters. It's got a good storyline, and there's just something. It's a fun game to play. And once you unlock the classes, that's when it really starts to get fun, because you can make your characters so incredibly weak. That's right, weak. That you're sort of scratching your head going, what the hell did I just do? They were so much more powerful before. And you'll max out that class, and then you'll unlock another class, or let's say you do 2 classes and you're like, yeah, okay, my character was a little weak or a little bit stronger. And then you unlock an intermediate class, and then all of a sudden your jaw drops because you're like, holy crap, I'm hitting for 120 per attack now, and I'm only level 23 or something like that. You're like, what just happened here? And that's the appeal of the whole class system, is that when you realize, wow, I am now, godly, and it just keeps going the more classes you unlock.
This is funny, because the last Dragon Quest game I beat was 6, and this seems similar or almost exactly the same as the quest system, the class system in 6, which I wasted many hours doing. Not as much as you. I'm not as crazy as you when it comes to that, but the class system in 6 was very addicting, and it seems very similar.
Yeah, do you remember, man? This was my thing. I wanted to comment on that, but I didn't have a chance to play 6 again very quickly to see. how exactly did it work? Because I do remember it's similar.
I think it's exactly the same. It's not XP based, it's battle based. And also, if I remember correctly, you unlock that system very late in the game also in 6. Although 6 is a 30 or 40 hour game, if I recall.
Yeah.
I believe actually mine clocked at exactly 36 hours, so it's not as long as 7, but I don't think you unlock the classes till the 20th hour or the 15th hour in that one too, so it takes a lot of time, but it's pretty much the same thing. I don't think there was as many classes, but I do remember that you needed to master a class to be able to learn another one, and you learn to keep those abilities. I believe you had to master the class though, which is different from 7. I think you don't need to master a class to keep the abilities in 7, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I haven't tried it, but I don't think so. I think once you've unlocked, for the basic classes at least, I'm still not sure about intermediate. That's what I'm trying to do. I want to level my intermediate classes, so that I can check to see if they stick with you. Because I think they do. I think it's only the advanced classes that you're screwed. Like, you must be in the advanced class to keep it. I'm hoping that's the case, but I'm not entirely convinced that's true.
But I imagine that once you're in the advanced class, there's not really any point of switching back.
Exactly. No, c'est ça. Exactly. Like, there's no reason whatsoever. Like, once you unlock Hero, Druid, or Champion, you're pretty much going to keep those classes, because they're like powerhouses. It's crazy.
Nice.
Anything else, or you want me to move on to our blast from the past? I just realized we've been talking for an hour and 11 minutes.
Well, just quickly, like, I know you don't want to do this, but maybe if you tried, what would be like your top 3 Dragon Quests, like on top of your head, your top 3 favorite Dragon Quest games, and how playing 7 right now, like how much are you enjoying this?
Me, there is not a single Dragon Quest I don't enjoy, but the best of the best, like 8's up there for sure, 4 is up there for sure.
Because when we used to talk about this, you've always said that 6 was your...
Okay, yeah, but now things have changed dramatically, right? 6 was my Link to the Past. It blew my mind when that came out. I mean, it was one of the most graphically stunning video games of its time. The class system was extremely deep for its time. But now, considering we have all the remakes and things like that, my opinion has changed quite a lot, and 8 was absolutely superb. I think 8 is probably my favorite one, just because of the story. I absolutely loved that game. But definitely 4 is in there, 6 is in there, 5 is really good too, 3 is really good. Like, I don't know, man. Honestly, this is the one series where it's so friggin' hard, not because of the usual Jared, but more because there's been so many friggin' games now that have been remade that it changes your opinion. Like the remake of Dragon Quest IV. Did you like that? That's amazing.
Yeah, that's
man.
the one that was in my DS Lite that was put in the garbage that I lost forever. That I was almost at the end of the game too. My thing, I used to play Dragon Quest IV a lot on my DS Lite, and I put it right beside my bed, and it fell in the garbage. I used to live with my parents, and my dad just picked up the garbage and obviously did not check in the bag, and it's forever in the dump.
Oh, that's so sad.
But I'm a bit worried about Dragon Quest VIII, because I think, and you might be able to answer that, you might not be able, I think it's more based on the Japanese version, which is really inferior to the North American version we got, because the Japanese version did not have voice acting, and it did not have many other things that the North American version had. I think the remake, the 3DS one, has the improved menus, but I don't think it's even as improved as the North American one was. So, did it have voice acting when you played it?
I knew you were going to ask me this.
You don't remember, right?
I don't remember, but I do remember that it is definitely inferior in some aspects to the PS2 one. Our PS2 one.
I know that they added some party members, though.
Yeah, I don't think I think they added two. They added two.
They added two. And it's exciting, and at the same time I'm worried, because one of the strengths of Dragon Quest VIII is the story, and the fact that you only have 4 party members, and they for the most part stay with you during the entire game, which I always like. So now having 2 more, which obviously you're not going to have 6 characters with you at all times. So I'm a bit worried about that, but you played the heck out of that game. You already beat it, and again, you might not have any insight because you don't remember anything.
Well, it's not so much the remembering this. This is more like a limited understanding. It's like I don't know what... I mean, there's new quest lines. This one is a much bigger remake than 7 in some aspects. It's a lot less of a remake in terms of the visuals, the audio-visual presentation. So instead, like where 7, all the money was put clearly into the audio-visual design, right? Like they literally had to like recreate the whole bloody game. Whereas with 8, they did not need to do that because it's like a beautiful game to begin with. So they just had to basically scale it to what they wanted. So they did add quest lines and things like that to the game, which is why I'm so excited to experience this in English. It's going to be way the hell easier, and I'll be able to really understand what the hell is going on. But these 2 characters now have been fleshed in with the party. So I don't think you need to be worried too much because there's a lot of dialogue that happens. So I didn't play it in English, so I don't know exactly what all that back and forth dialogue is, but I have a feeling that they've simply added these particular people into the main game. So I don't think we have too much to worry about. I think basically what it's going to do is it's going to extend the storyline.
Yeah. I hope the voice acting isn't there, but I believe it's not. Which
I don't think so.
It's a bit disappointing because it was really, really well done.
Yeah, but I think for space and stuff, I'm not sure if they. I'm pretty sure there's nothing. So what else?
Well, I think we can save the rest for when you eventually review this.
Yeah, sure. I'm much more interested to follow along your adventure.
Yeah, no, I'm really having a blast doing that. I was always worried, I still am, about the length of this because it is a bit repetitive sometimes. But I have a feeling that as soon as I get the classes, which is very soon, I'm gonna grind the heck out of this because I really want to. I don't know. I love that aspect about 6, so I'm gonna love this about 7. And there's a few different characters that I want to see, like what the heck is going on with Kiefer. Like, it's I went back and you told me I was gonna get answers, and I did not get any answer at all. So I'm assuming that's gonna be later. So
you'll see. Don't worry.
Yeah. But no, so far so good. Like, can't wait, man. I'm really happy we got this.
Yeah, that's the thing. Thank you. That's very good, Stephen. That's it. I think that's the best way to end our little discussion on Dragon Quest is exactly that. That I myself too am ridiculously thankful that we actually got this, because I was very skeptical that this was ever coming over, just like Dragon Quest X. But Dragon Quest X, unfortunately, it's got a lot more going against it than 7 did, in the fact that it's an MMO, and a paid one at that. Mm-hmm. But I am so happy to experience this again, because the last Dragon Quest we got was Dragon Quest IX, and that was a damn long time ago. Or was it 6?
No, it was 9.
So let's see, when was this? It was like 2009 probably. Dragon Quest IX release date. Let's see. Well, I know it was a while. Yeah, 2009. And North America, 2010. So that's 6 years. And that's what sucks, honestly. That's what sucks. Because it's what makes it so hard to follow the series, because it's, with like Zelda, you're guaranteed you're going to get a Zelda game every 1, 2, or 3 years. Like, for sure, it's going to happen. It's like Mario and series like that. Now, unfortunately, Metroid's falling into, that whole 6-year type wait thing. But with Dragon Quest, they're like all over the map, man. It's really, really friggin' annoying. And what scares me with this is that they still aren't showing the series faith, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, this is published by Nintendo, by the way.
Exactly.
Sqaure-Enix bringing this, which is really
annoying.
Scary for Dragon Quest XI, because we might only get the 3DS and NX version, which is not that bad, because I assume the NX version will be very similar to the PS4 version, but it's always better to get all options.
But that's it. C'est ça, exactly. And that's what's really, it's really annoying, man, because to me, I look at it like, do they even have faith at all in this property on the worldwide market? And, I mean, nothing would please me more than to get next month's sales charts and to see this thing charted number 10, or even,
It's not going to happen. This is...
I know.
This is... Not everything needs to chart to be profitable. This is one of those series that you need to invest to in order for it to eventually maybe chart, but still doesn't need to. And
no,
I think the sales will be good enough, but I don't think it will chart.
And I 100% agree with you. It's just I want it to, because it's a series that I love, and a surprise Monster Hunter type of thing, which no, I don't, not number 1 or anything, but it would be nice to be able to say, it's back, there's no question, we're going to get 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever, it's back. And I'm always nervous about this because of what you just said, the fact that, Nintendo is the one that's publishing this, and there's no word at all on Dragon Quest XI, and it's damn it, man, damn it. I hate having to import this series. It sucks.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to move on so that I don't have to get Axiom Verge footage, which I might now that this is going so late. Ugh, I don't want to. So, Blast from the Past. Very simple one today. N64 game, completely overlooked for its time. I would love to tell you that it's held up wonderfully, but I haven't played it in forever. And I have no idea. But it was a really fun game that history has sort of forgotten. And it was the first, I believe, again, you guys can correct me if I'm mistaken, but it was released in 2009, so PS2 wasn't even out yet. And
you mean 99, right?
Oh yeah, sorry, 99. No, what do you mean? And it was, I believe, the first 3D console shooter to feature a cover mechanic. I'm pretty sure. And it's really funny because today, if you actually look up, games like Gears of War and you follow the history of it, this particular game is often cited as one of the games that inspired cover mechanics as you know it today, that are used in everything from Uncharted to the already mentioned Gears of War. And that game is a game called WinBack. It was a third-person shooter for the N64, and it just came out at a really bad time because it was when the Dreamcast was, getting all the hype. It was a really, really, really interesting game for its time, and it wasn't wonderful, wasn't amazing, wasn't like a 9.9 on 10, but it's certainly a hidden gem that would be interesting to revisit today. And it was a game that I was thinking about on the way back from work today, and I was like, yeah, I'm wondering if any of the people listening here have actually played that recently, and how has that game held up? I call it a blast from the past, but it may not even be a blast to play anymore.
I had one of my friends who actually bought the game back in the day, so I saw him play a bit, and yeah, it seemed like a pretty solid game. So I'm gonna give you the okay on this, a thumbs up, the good old thumbs up.
Okay, well that's it. That was my blast from the past. But I thought it would be a little bit different because I was trying to think of something a little more original that we haven't covered before. And yeah, I've played some games, but I'll save it for another blast from the past. But I thought this would be kind of interesting, sort of challenge the listeners out there or the viewers, have you actually played this? How does it hold up? I'd be really curious to hear. Probably going to get comments telling me it's god-awful.
You need to actually make a list of all our previous Blast from the Past.
Yeah, we do, because we're getting...
I'm afraid, like, at last podcast, I think I used Alien Infestation, and while I was doing that, I was like, did I use this before? So you need to make a list.
I do, because if it wasn't you, I could have potentially said it. I don't think so, though. I think we're good. Oh. But yeah, we got to do that because I'm getting, yeah. Okay. All right, guys, so that's it. An hour and 24 minutes. I think we're good. Thanks, as always, for listening, and hopefully we'll be able to catch you guys on the flip side very soon. Just everything, we've all been so busy playing Dragon Quest that we haven't thought of anything else. And that's that. So thanks a lot for everybody. Steven, say goodbye.
Bye-bye.